for 2023, we had how many words were shortlisted for mainstream media? I think we had interest rate, we had BRICS, we had geopolitics, as well as the winning word, which is Russia, Ukraine. Which, as you know, there were a lot of discussions, really, a lot of public discourse around what was happening in the country itself, its role as the BRICS host, as well as, the political pressure really that was placed on the country in terms of whether or not the Russian president would be coming to the country. That essentially is the word of the year, but we've also expanded the campaign to include social media, because we found that we couldn't really, get a barometer of the exact way that people actually speak on the ground, like your everyday language. So we added social media, and in terms of social media, the SA word of the year is kuningi.
So, of course, just to confirm, Russia-Ukraine is the word of the year 2023 in South Africa. Let's talk about the social media criteria. Of course, kuningi was also the most favorite, but it was also, accompanied with other interesting words. Just talk to us about some of those words that came through.
Okay, well, kuningi was up against other words that are actually quite interesting. We had dango, and I think dango, it's not the first time that we've actually had dango submitted. I think it's just gaining traction, to be honest. And we had batung, which is a Sesotho or Setswana word that really just talks about where people are, but in terms of how it is used on social media, it really is meant to express shock, I think. We find that it is actually used by speakers of different languages. So it's also that element of, I think also social cohesion, really, where we are just appreciating each other's languages a bit more. I think one of the other words that was submitted was 10 past 4. And I think many of us would know where that comes from. And I think somebody said earlier this morning that, you had to be there. Only South Africans would know what that means.
And I love that because, all of these words represent not only our languages, but also invariably just the state of mind at the time. Other words that were submitted is Cima, Ivale, Mfana, and Batung, as you said. And of course, 10 past 4 is my personal favorite. But just from a statistics perspective, I just want to tell for the benefit of our viewers, kuningi emerged as the winner with a commanding 61% clip count, followed by Batung at 27%. But going back to the word of the year for 2023, just talk to us about the qualifying criteria. How did you come to that word? And of course, how did you, measure just some of the information through the data that you were getting?
Okay, so in terms of SA word of the year, obviously we pick up what is, on credible broadcast media. We pick up what is there on print. And we have a media research partner, which is Focal Points, that then does the statistics analysis for us. And they track for the past 12 months. So there has to be evidence that the word has been used. The increase, the word has, been used at a more increased rate than it would have otherwise have been in other years. So we look for such, the word doesn't need to be actually new for it to qualify, but we just need to get that evidence that, there has been increase in usage of the word, which, as as you look at the shortlisted words, those are words that we, have been really speaking about. It actually just gives you an idea of what the country has been mostly preoccupied with.
And just talking about the timing of releasing this word, I mean, you have coincided it, of course, with, the importance of dictionaries in this country. Of course, as an organization or as a board, you've also raised concern that some languages are not being used in provinces where they are spoken, predominantly, like, for instance, Mpumalanga with Isiswati and Isindebele. Just talk to us about the importance of today and, of course, making sure that you merge this process with the Dictionary Day.
Well, really, I'm glad you actually asked that, because one of the reasons we decided to run this campaign is to actually emphasize the importance of using dictionaries, to expand one's vocabulary, as well as to, improve literacy levels amongst, South Africans. And we know that there was this study that was done by the 2030 reading panel, which found that children from, the ages of 10 and under cannot read for meaning. So basically what we're trying to do really is to make sure that these dictionaries are used as, as a primary or a core learning material within schools. And I think I do agree with some of the speakers who are from our national lexicography units, who are pushing for these dictionaries to be placed in schools, really, because it really doesn't help anybody that we develop these dictionaries, but then they do not find their way into the classroom. So I think if we go back to the basics, really, we might actually win against, the scourge of, illiteracy in the country.
And just talking about that, I mean, we know, of course, there was concern of, some students in certain grades, grade 4 being mentioned, particularly of, children struggling to read for comprehension, as an example. Just looking at some of the processes and the steps that you've taken in this, campaign, you've gone to lengths to add, local languages that is being used. How important is it for us to start incorporating just some of the languages that we are now starting to form based on the times in which we live in?
Okay, that is really very important, to be honest, which is why actually we expanded the campaign, because usually we would just, focus on what was there on mainstream media. But that also doesn't really give you a clear picture, of how South Africans actually speak. So if you look at those shortlisted words, we've got languages, we've got a bit more range in terms of the languages that are represented there. You've got Ima, say from isiXhosa, you've got a Batung, which is from your Sesotho languages. So basically, really, we just want to, make sure that we highlight the importance of our own languages, even as we are, processing what is happening around us.